Alright. Now that I'm back, let's see here. Who am I going to be dealing with here today?
Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit.
Out of all of the different people that I could possibly talk about, this is the one that ends up showing up. This is the one that ends up showing up in my recommended, and is the one thing that is basically trying to haunt me. Well, whatever. At this point, I don't even know. Anyways, guys, how's it going, everybody? It's your boy, Sadie here. And, oh boy, we're gonna be tackling a pretty low-hanging fruit here today. We're gonna be talking about no BS here. We're talking about this guy. I understand, I know. I'm going after low-hanging fruit, but at this point, I genuinely don't really care. And apparently, this individual right here seems to have a little bit of an issue with a certain Adam Ruins Everything episode. And in case you are wondering about like the context and whatnot for this one, essentially his entire video revolves around one specific clip that was released by the official True TV YouTube channel, which was essentially a clip from Adam Ruins Everything, and it was from one of his most recent episodes where he talks about, you know, how we can never really escape bugs because they're basically everywhere. They're in our food, they're on us, they're inside of us. That's basically the entire premise. And in case you don't know what Adam Ruins Everything is all about, basically, what the entire show is all about, it's all about just basically debunking, like, common misconceptions, or basically, well, I mean, that's just kind of his entire show. It's just debunking stuff. It's just, you know, hey, you know, you used to think that this was true, but in reality, it's this. And in this specific episode, he basically said that, you know, we can never really get rid of any kinds of bugs that are around us because, well, they're basically everywhere and we can't really escape from them. And a lot of them are really useful. And in this one specific clip, which, it was just kind of like, you know, a parody of the cooking show Chopped, and it basically had like these 4 different people that were kind of like the chefs of the entire thing, and they had to cook dishes that included bugs, and the entire premise of that one entire segment was to show that even the most common food items that we eat on a daily basis pretty much contain bugs in them. Stuff like, you know, smoothies and whatnot. Basically a whole bunch of different, you know, things that we would never really think twice about, you know, what's in it, usually contain some parts of bugs in them. And even lobsters themselves are like, you know, full-on bugs. And in case you're wondering why I'm even deciding to bring up any of this context, there's a reason why, and that is because No BS doesn't show any context at all. Context in his world doesn't even exist. Who cares about context, am I right, guys? We're just gonna take a look at a couple of interesting points from like the beginning parts of his video before he finally gets into the main point of the video 5 minutes in. Yeah, I know, he likes to stretch his videos to 10 minutes, okay? I'm glad that I have an ad blocker on for this, because there's 11 ads detected, okay? This man is trying to milk the freaking well dry at this point. But anyways, let's get started, shall we?
Today we return to talking about our least favorite show on television, Adam Ruins Everything.
Well, I mean, some people can say, I mean, it's all just an opinion, really. In my opinion, I personally really enjoy Adam Ruins Everything, probably because of the fact that he's probably the most neutral stance kind of, like, I guess, show that you could possibly, you know, ever, like, come across. And that is the beauty of Adam Ruins Everything. He doesn't really take a side on anything. In fact, in his gun episode, he basically pointed out the flaws and issues with both sides of the gun argument. Like, the thing is that he's very, very neutral on everything that he talks about. If it's like an argument, he points out the flaws of both sides of the argument. But in this one, it wasn't really an argument whatsoever. It was just one of his, you know, standard, you know, debunking misconceptions episodes.
Who recently got in on a troubling trend going on in liberal circles right now. With climate change hysteria at an all-time high, we've seen the left-wingers come up with some pretty crazy ideas to try and supposedly combat that over the past few months.
Of course we're dealing with a climate change denier in this one. You already know that someone is a brainlet when they don't even believe that climate change is a thing. Like, he might as well just be an anti-vaxxer and a flat earther and might as well believe that there are aliens on the moon and the moon landing never really happened. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy just believes in every conspiracy theory in the book, no matter how contradictory, because, well, I mean, Who cares about research when you're no BS, am I right, guys?
Recently, there's been a huge wave of liberal propaganda pushing for Americans to replace the meat eating in our diets with eating bugs.
I've never really heard of this entire eating bugs thing. I don't know, maybe it's just like a really obscure thing that literally only someone just trying to look for any issues with whatever side of the argument they're trying to go up against would try and look for. I personally never heard of it. If it's really just a widespread thing, then maybe I'm just the idiot. I don't know. I mean, unlike this guy, I'm actually willing to, say that, hey, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, man.
That's right, and if you do a simple internet search about this, you can see that there are countless articles being pushed out in the past few weeks promoting bug diets for our country and the world. Sounds pretty insane and highly unnecessary, but also, it's not exactly surprising after we've seen all this other crazy stuff that the left has been promoting lately.
I like how you blame all this on just the left because, well, I mean, why wouldn't you? You're already proven yourself to be just already an insane conspiracy theorist by already saying that you don't believe in climate change, so we already know that you're more than likely a negative brain cell kind of human being. I mean, to be honest, it's no surprise that he's going after Adam Conover in this one because he probably gets angry at literally anyone that even has, like, even one more brain cell than him, because it's really not that hard to be more intelligent than someone like this. You just need to have at least an actual functioning brain cell and not a freaking rock.
As ways for us to stop this climate change boogeyman that they themselves created, which is really their way to gain more control and power, and also, it's their way to belittle and crush the hopes of the masses. But
I'm sorry, but what? Of course, like, I really can't even begin to imagine what this guy looks like. I can just imagine him with like a cork board in the background with all these strings attached, and it all leads to liberal propaganda, and he has like a tinfoil hat on, tinfoil gloves, he has like a freaking, Illuminati sign saying that it's all real and that he's not the only insane one, like, painted all over the background, painted in like red ink or something like that. Like, I don't know, I just personally imagine someone like this, kind of, appearing to be like that. This is probably the last point that I'm actually going to try and play here, because, like, if any of these other points didn't already prove that he's, completely and totally nuts, then I really don't know what will.
Adam Ruins Everything recently got in on this bug-pushing liberal agenda because of...
No, he hasn't. That wasn't the point of that episode at all. Oh wait, you probably don't do extensive research, do you? Figures.
Of course he did. Adam always loves to toe the line with the most radical and progressive Democrats out there, as we've seen time.
No, he really doesn't. As I said, he's fairly neutral on a lot of things. In fact, he's neutral on everything that he talks about, especially when it comes to, like, debates and whatnot, like one. That's the thing about Adam Conover. He's neutral. He doesn't really lean to one side or the other. He points out the flaws with both ends.
Time and time again. The latest Adam Ruins Everything garbage comes from a clip they posted on their True TV YouTube page. And despite it not getting heavily disliked yet, the video also isn't doing very well at all, especially for a channel with over 2 million subscribers. And that's probably because of the obvious. It literally says we should all be eating bugs, and also, it says we are already eating them.
This is just one clip out of the entire episode. I like how you're just going by just, like, the singular clip and not by the entire episode, because I'm pretty sure if he actually went by the entire episode and actually looked at its context, you know that you are a complete idiot.
Do we really think that any of these Democrats or Adam Ruins Everything are going to start eating bugs themselves? Hell no. They just want to preach about that shit and push it on to other people who are ignorant enough to listen to them. And it's also clearly being used as a way to control and manipulate the masses, and also possibly weaken us too.
Of course, we're going back to control, manipulate, and weaken. I like how that's your automatic default. Again, it sounds like a freaking chemtrail argument. Oh, look at that, they're spraying the chemtrails up in the sky again, they're trying to weaken us, but my brain is already damaged beyond belief, you can't control me.
Highly doubt professional athletes or bodybuilders are going to be able to build muscle mass by eating cockroaches. So perhaps this is another way for the left-wingers to try and weaken the population at large.
Or maybe that's not the point at all, and you're just reading way too much into it, and you never actually did any research on the context of the episode in this specific clip, and you're basically a complete and total idiot.
All that said, let's go ahead and jump into this Adam video and discuss what's being said specifically and why it's so stupid and wrong. Things start off here with a fake cooking show. Adam is the presenter in a bug cooking version of Chopped called Squished. This is admittedly one of his show's funnier premises too. I actually giggled here, except it all gets undermined by the fact that Adam and his crew actually think people should be eating bugs legitimately.
That's not at all what this segment was about. This segment was actually about how common food dishes that we usually eat and consume contain parts of bugs in them in order to enhance them in some way. The point of this segment was not to push propaganda or anything along those lines. The actual point of this segment was to show how common food items usually contain bugs in them, and how some things that we would usually eat that are pretty much straight up bugs, we wouldn't give second thoughts about, even though they are actually bugs in all reality. That was the point of this segment. But of course with you don't seem to realize that.
If this were a joke, like it should be, we would see these chefs attempting to cook with bugs and making food that looks gross, and struggling to make their bug-filled dishes look tasty and appetizing for...
But that's not really, what Adam does on his show. Whenever he does certain skits like this, it's usually, in a way to try and get the point across. I'm gonna use another one of his episodes for an example. It was Adam Ruins Science or something along those lines, where he was talking about how trying to get scientific grants or scientific research, and trying to get all that published through the government and other types of, ways is pretty much impossible. And the way that he showed this was by doing a parody of Shark Tank called, I think it was called Think Tank or something along those lines. And, the judges were the US government, a philanthropist, and two other people, and each and every single one of them basically had their own little flaws. The philanthropist was only interested in their own needs, the United States, had to listen to the politicians, and so on and so forth. And of course with this one, the main point of it was to show how common food items contain parts of bugs in them. So basically my entire point is if you actually did a little bit of research in, the other times in which Adam usually does these different show parodies in order to get the point across, you would realize that it's just, to try and get the point across, to try and get the overall message across. It's not to push, agendas or a propaganda piece or anything along those lines. And you just made yourself look like an idiot if you genuinely think that.
For television, this would be a good parody of left-wingers too. It actually looks like the setup for a good comedy sketch to make fun of them and how far they've gone.
Well, except for the fact that Adam usually doesn't do that on his show. In fact, he really doesn't do that at all.
Next, Adam says this zinger of a line. The truth is, bugs are already in most of our foods, and there's nothing unsafe or even unhealthy about it. And well, I don't think we even need to challenge the unsafeness or unhealthiness of eating bugs. I'm sure they can be perfectly safe in some situations, so long as they're not poisonous or dirty or something, but the truth is, people don't want to eat bugs for different reasons. Besides there obviously being better alternative food sources out there, also, bugs on their own aren't an appealing dish to most sane and rational people. Bugs look scary, taste weird, and they seem gross upon touching them. And they also have terrible consistencies in your mouth, and it just feels weird to think about chewing them up. They taste like thin bubblegum or something. I don't know, I haven't tried them, but I can imagine.
I mean, judging by your really graphic description there, it kind of makes me question otherwise. And also, another thing is, of course people wouldn't want to eat bugs outright. But the point of that entire segment wasn't, people just straight up eating just full-on bugs. It was the fact that bug parts are already in our food that we eat, and there's nothing unsafe about it. It's amazing how you even read that quote, but yet you completely chuck it aside and disregard everything that it says.
Basically, we're not eating bugs for far different reasons than what Adam's arguing against here, because he's arguing against no one. He's just straw-manning his opponents once again.
I mean, you are right on one thing. He's arguing against no one. In fact, in reality, He's not arguing against anyone at all. He's not strawmanning any enemy or opponent, because there is no opponent in this episode. There is no, one side or the other in this episode. It's just one of his regular, debunking a common misconception, or, showing off, certain things that we never really knew kind of episodes.
So we can easily bat them down, even though these are things we never said. And
well, I mean, of course you can easily bat them down, because you completely and totally bat down the context anyway, so why not just bat down this invisible straw man that he supposedly put up even though he didn't do anything?
before this line, Adam had another sneaky way of saying we already eat bugs. He made an idiotic point that lobsters and crawfish are technically bugs themselves, and since people already eat them, so hey, Adam thinks he got us here. I would call shenanigans on this right away, and I would also say Adam is stretching and trying to get us on some kind of bullshit technicality. Also, if you can find me some other smaller bugs that look and taste as delicious as lobster, by all means. I'm sure many of us would give that a try.
Are lobsters bugs? Insects are the common name of arthropods from insecticlass. Shrimps and lobsters are also arthropods, but not from insecta. So they are arthropods, but they're not exactly insects. So basically they are like, they are bugs, but they're not like insects. That's kind of the main thing.
The truth is, even though the term arthropod can be used to describe both some kinds of seafood and also many bugs, that doesn't mean they're actually as similar as Adam and his silly show leads on.
And you even take into account that they are arthropods and that makes them bugs. You even take that into account, but then again you also took that quote into account and completely chucked it aside because, you couldn't even wrap your head around it because you don't have a brain whatsoever. I don't even understand this entire thing, okay? They are, in fact, similar in many different ways. They have exoskeletons, they have the squishy innards, they basically are bugs in every single way. The only main difference between the two is just size. Lobsters are freaking massive compared to most of the bugs that we're used to, so, I mean, obviously that would throw you for a loop, because you're like, but bugs are supposed to be small! Yeah, go ahead and visit Australia for like 5 seconds. I'm pretty sure you'll find something that looks like one of the grievers from like the Maze Runner or something.
If you eat 100 pounds of chocolate, you'll have eaten 1 entire pound of bugs. Just when I thought his arguments couldn't get any more stupid too. I mean, come on, who the hell is eating 100 pounds of chocolate anyway?
Again, you're taking this entire quote and chucking it aside and just starting to focus on just like one singular part. Allow me to quickly explain to you this entire thing, okay? He was just kind of showing like a figure to explain just how common like bug parts are in common things that we eat. So he used something that a lot of people eat commonly, which is chocolate. And he basically kind of set up a figure saying that, hey, if you eat 100 pounds of chocolate, you've at least eaten an entire pound of bugs. It's not like anyone's going to eat 100 pounds of chocolate in one sitting. That just doesn't happen, obviously. But he was just setting up a figure to show that, hey, this is just how common this is, and we don't give, second thoughts about it.
Sure, we eat lots of different chocolate-flavored things on American diets, but to consume 100 pounds of pure chocolate is a pretty huge stretch. To spread that out over time, that would mean you would have to eat 2 whole pounds of Hershey's chocolate bars every week for about a year in order to get to the 100 pounds referenced here.
Well, I mean, again, it was just to set up a figure and say that, hey, here's just a simple way to compare, how much bugs we're actually eating and how much bugs are actually in our food. Here's a common food item that a lot of people eat, chocolate. Here's a figure for you to try and, wrap your head around that. But for you, since you don't really exactly have a decent enough head to wrap around something like this, you automatically focus on one small part and disregard the rest of it. The thing is that for anyone that actually has seen like the full episode and has seen like any other Adam episode, you would know that this guy is complete and total nonsense. He has his head shoved so far up his ass that he doesn't even seem to understand the nonsense that's coming out of it. But yeah, that's it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please consider leaving a like. That's very well appreciated. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I finally have gotten back into making videos, and this is the first thing that I come back with. How amazing is that? But yeah, that's it for today's video. Just do whatever I usually tell you to do, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. See ya.